Welcome to the RealTrending podcast, where we speak to the brightest minds in real estate about leadership, business growth, trends, and strategy. I'm your host, Tracey Velt, Senior Director of Data and Content for HousingWire. And today I am speaking with Bonneau Ansley. He is the broker of Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International in Atlanta. And Team Bonneau was listed as #1 for sales volume and #4 for transaction size in Georgia in the RealTrends America's Best. Bonneau was also awarded a rank of 7 on the 2023 RealTrends plus Tom Ferry, the 1,000 for sales volume in the medium team category across the nation. So welcome, Bonneau. Thanks for joining us on the RealTrending podcast.
I'm super excited to be here this morning.
Yeah, I want to really start at the beginning because you, and I want to clarify whether you're running a teamerage or you are running a team within a brokerage. So tell me a little bit about how you got your start and a little bit about your business model and your company.
Yeah, that sounds great. I started as an agent in 2009, and I'll get to the backstory of how I became an agent. But I was working for another brokerage and everything was going great. I was, still the #1 agent in Atlanta, but I felt like the platform could be different where I wanted to really grow my team. And so I developed Ansley Atlanta Real Estate, and it was just focused in Atlanta, and it was just my team. And, I started with 5 or 6 members that came over with me to start my team. And with that, I developed what ended up being a wonderful platform for agents to work under. And fast forward that to 2023, we've got 420 agents. We've got, a marketing house with, 14 or 15 graphic designers. We've got, 7 or 8 managing brokers. We've got 9 or 10 offices. But I'm still work within that platform that I created with my team. And I still run my team as I run my business. And we've transferred from Ansley, Atlanta, because we've grown outside of Atlanta. We went to Ansley Real Estate. And then we got involved with Christie's International Real Estate, which is another story in itself. So now we're Ansley Christie's International Real Estate, and I am a team within that brokerage, which I own, or I am a partner in.
Okay, so you're a partner in it, but you're not the managing broker.
No, I was the managing broker for probably the first year, and knew that we needed more horsepower, and I needed a broker, frankly, right? So I hired a one broker, and now we've got 6 or 7, within 9 or 10 offices.
Okay, and as far as the company owners, you and is there another partner in the business?
Yeah, so as we grew the business, I brought in At Properties out of Chicago to be my partner, and they bought a significant portion of the business. And then we used their technology, their proprietary technology called Platform, to run our growing business, Ansley Real Estate. And then fast forward to 2021, the end, I went back in with them, and through the partnership that we're in, collectively, we bought Christie's International Real Estate. So I'm now a partner in the larger brand of Christie's, and a partner in the ownership group that owns Ansley Real Estate, At Properties, Sereno. And we've got a really, really great thing going relative to our ownership group.
Okay, that's wonderful. I know you overcame quite a bit of adversity throughout your life. I saw that you had a fire at your house, and you were dyslexic, or you are dyslexic. You've had quite a few hurdles to overcome, and I think a lot of agents really can relate to that because they've also had hurdles. So tell me a little bit about that and some of the lessons that you may have learned overcoming that adversity and becoming so successful with your team and brokerage.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got things that they go through life. I mean, life's not an easy path for anybody. I've never met anybody with an easy life and an easy path. And I've had a phenomenal life. I was just not a great student, which I think a lot of people can relate to. I just didn't fit in the box that developed really good students. So my learning was done outside the box. And when that light bulb went off, when I was probably a junior in high school, after going to a lot of different schools, they didn't know what to do with me. But I learned I was going to be okay when I started to use my mind to market things, develop things, design things. And I did that in the form of t-shirts and hats, and ended up selling a lot of t-shirts and hats with cool messages and designs to throughout high school. And then I started a business my freshman year in college called Yellow 5 T-shirt Company, where we ended up designing for all the parties and for the fraternities and sororities, and selling shirts and things for every party they did, for every fraternity and sorority. So we ended up, having a wonderful company, which I sold when I started to fall in love with real estate, when I started taking real estate classes at University of Georgia. And my dyslexic is, there's a lot of people dyslexic, and frankly, there's a lot of agents, and the reason why they're not in the corporate world is because they don't fit into a box. And, when you're an agent, you're able to be whoever you are. You're able to, brand what you want to brand. You're able to use your creative mind to do different things, to sell houses, to sell property. And I think I'm really lucky to be able to kind of marry my my passion, and then with my skill set that I have, and my skill set does not make me an accountant or a nuclear scientist or a doctor or anything like that. My skill set's with people. And I learned that early on, which I think is a huge gift, because I knew what I was good at and knew what I was not good at, and been able to work in an environment or an industry where I could be successful. So early on, right when I finished college, I got my real estate license when I was still in college, and built a house and started selling things. And right after college, I moved down and started selling at a resort down on the coast of Georgia called the Ford Field and River Club. And, at 21, 22, 23 years old, there was no better environment to go out and sell property and real estate. And actually, that was probably 1999, 2021, 2001, 2002. But I was able to meet with people and sell them a dream and find a piece of property and get them excited and then get them to a closing. And I knew that I was going to be good at something in life. And it turned out to be, real estate. So I felt very, very, very fortunate early on that I was able to find something that I was going to be good at.
Yeah, that's it is actually rare for people to kind of recognize their strengths, especially when you're in high school, early college. It's kind of all a mishmash of what do I want to do? What am I good at? And it's so fascinating. You're really a typical entrepreneur. That is exactly, what I hear from a lot of real estate brokers, a lot of team leaders, is they never felt like they really fit in that box, and they wanted to expand outside of it and really focus on what they were good at. And congratulations to you, because you've built a great company and business. So
some people define success with a SAT score or a GPA. And there's another way. And luckily, I was a decent athlete, so I had success on the ball fields and things like that. But I was not successful in in a portion of the life before you're 18 years old, where people really realize, well, what's your grades, what's your grade point average, what's your SAT. That wasn't going to define my success. And I was confident enough as an individual where I knew I was going to be successful, but I was going to have to figure it out. And what I say a lot today is I was smart enough to know how dumb I am. And if you really think through what that means, and I've gone through business that way. When I started Ansley in 2015, I knew that I couldn't do, or I was not going to be the right person to do specific tasks within that organization. But with my people skills, I was able to hire the right people to do those specific tasks. I do the same thing with my team of real estate. I focus on the 20% or 25% of my team that generates business, that deals with people, and that works on deals. The other stuff, I put people in place that are much better than me at those tasks to do that. And I'm able to run a very, very efficient team. In 2022, we sold $470+ million of property. And I can't be everywhere, right? So if I put the right people in place, and I don't have a mega team, I mean, I've probably got 6 or 7 people, but 3 people that are out facing, and the other folks are, doing the paperwork, doing the marketing, doing the deal management, doing all the other stuff. And I know where my place is on the team. And I think that's really important for agents that are listening out there to know your place on the team and know what you do really, really good and focus your time on that, because then you can have growth and scale. And I do that, and I'm able to do that and sell that much property, but also continue to run our business. Now, I'm not I relinquished my CEO title last year, but I still am the vision for the company. I still do the recruiting. I'm still, working with our head of marketing to understand the brand and make sure, and do all the big things, because that's what I'm a visionary. That's what I'm good at. And the other stuff, the operations and stuff, I keep a handle on that and I understand what we're doing, but I always give people the responsibility to move forward in their job, not a task list. And if you can hire the right people and give them a long, long runway to do their job, they're going to be much happier and have much more job satisfaction. The people on my team have been with me for all 10 years plus, so I think that's a testament to keeping good people, giving them the runway to do what they, and I've also, over the last, 6 or 7 years, I also use, different personality tests to make sure that those people are going to be happy within the job that they're supposed to do. If that makes sense. And I think that's really, really important to make sure that people are in the place they should be, because they'll thrive if they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, this market is challenging a lot of agents with low inventory, high interest rates, no end in sight to the interest rate issue. And so what advice do you have for agents to drive their business forward? I mean, there's the usual keep in touch with your sphere, but it's funny. I went to a real estate conference recently and agents were like, well, how do I do that? What do I say to them? How do I, I don't want to just call and ask, do you know someone ready to buy a house, which is probably the worst thing that you could ask. So what's your advice for agents in today's market?
Well, if they're in the right place, it should be somewhat natural. And, we as a team, go by how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And that starts with your home life, right? That starts with your health. That starts with the way your mind is feeling and operating. It's how you treat people. And then if you're going to be a really, really top producer, there's an obsession about it, right? There's a competitive atmosphere where I thrive in a competitive atmosphere, because I always want to, stay at the top of my game, stay at the top of Georgia. And you got to keep reinventing yourself. I mean, all agents start the year January 1st at 0. It doesn't matter what kind of year you had the year before. And, if it's not broke, break it, right? So every year we start over. And I've been fortunate enough, when I started my career in selling in 2009, I was able to double my business every single year, right? And to double your business every single year, you can't do the things that you were doing the year before, because you're going to have what? The same result, right? So you constantly have to continue with technology, continue with doing different things. Of course, everybody talks about keeping up with your clients and your past clients. I mean, that's second nature, right? And if you're really good at this business, it's a way of life relative to, you know, I don't have a set regiment like a lot of people that I interview in our podcast, Brokering Billions. Some people do cold calling for the first 2 hours. Then they do this, they do this. Like
Yes.
I don't have a set regiment. It's just a way of life that I keep in touch with my folks. And we do that through a variety of different things. A lot of agents are doing really, really well on social media, but some are taking that, becoming social media stars and not real estate stars. And there's a big difference, right? You can have 1 million followers and sell not a lot of real estate, but be a star. Or you can have a good constant mix of promoting yourself, promoting your property, and still continue to grow as a real estate agent. So there's got to be some sort of mix relative to everything that you do as a real estate agent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know several agents who actually are very successful, but they're also social media stars. And then there are others that, they're just getting a footing, but it is a great medium for referral business as well. Just if you have enough followers, you're going to get people contacting you.
That's
So
right.
definitely. Yeah. So let's talk about your book, Brokering Billions. So what are some of the key takeaways that you think our audience, and our audience includes brokers and real estate leaders and agents, can take away from the book?
First of all, being dyslexic and not reading a lot of books, but listening to a lot of books, writing your own book is very, very difficult. And I seem to like to do things that are really, really challenging, because, just coasting through is something that I just can't do. And, somebody, but no, you should write a book, because you always get people that ask you on a daily basis, hey, how do I do this? How do you do this? How did you start? So I put it all down on my book, and it shares my story. It was really fun to do, and it took me a couple years to do it. Interesting story. It came about. I was at a restaurant and having a great dinner with my family, and I choked on a piece of steak. And it wasn't coming out. And, the waiter was doing the Heimlich maneuver on me, and I ended up losing consciousness, and it was a real bad scene. And somehow, some way, they got me back up, and they put somebody else doing the Heimlich. And the story goes that they got the steak out because I'm still here. But the next day I woke up and I go, golly, I could have died last night. And I really got a lot to say, because there's a lot of people out there, even high school folks or college folks, that don't know what they're doing and don't know what they're going to do when they finish school. And maybe they've been beaten down because they're not the greatest student. And I wanted to talk through that the curves in life, the challenges in life that you have, are your greatest asset to push through and to figure out really who you are. And the way that life goes. I mean, I was as I told you guys, when I started out after college, I started selling real estate down in the Ford Field River Club. And I sold a lot of real estate, and I built our dream house on the Wilmington River in Savannah with my wife. And we had just gotten married. She was 9 months pregnant, and we were about to have our first child. And our dream house gets struck by lightning and burns down to the ground. And so you're sitting there going, man, that night before the house burned down, life was amazing. Like, we were selling real estate. We were newlyweds. We're about to have this baby. And your life changes because you lose everything that you've ever owned. And you also lose a house that you put your heart and soul in building for a couple years. But if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have moved back to Atlanta a few weeks later, right? And started a development there where I was a developer, right? And I learned so much on the development side for several years until the real estate recession happened. And one thing I was developing with another company ended up failing because the real estate market crashed and there was no buyers, and we had just finished this beautiful $70 million development and nobody was coming to buy it and the market was terrible. And that was the bottom of the curve. But then I said, geez, well, what am I going to do? And I looked back in my life and I said, well, I started with people, not developing. I love building and I love, putting something together. So then I moved back into becoming a real estate agent. So that bottom of the curve brought me back to the top of the curve, and I started having success as a real estate agent. And one thing led to another. I started a company and continue to sell real estate and have a big platform. So you got to embrace the curves in life. And the book is all about that. It's all about how to build a team. It's all about how to structure your day. It has some mindset stuff in there. And I wrote this thing and, put it out there. And next thing you know, it's a New York Times bestseller. And that was really, really exciting for me to say, well, God, people are actually reading this book. And I don't know, what is there, 1.5 million agents in the United States? And this is a great playbook for agents. My Audible book, which was a lot easier to do, is coming out here very, very soon. So I think if agents are anything like me and in your car a lot, the Audible version is a wonderful thing to download and listen to while you're in your car, because the nuggets and takeaways that I've done over the last 25 years with my career to where I am now, it's all in that book. And I think people are loving it.
Yeah, I will definitely load the Audible version. I listen to podcasts and books while I run in the morning. And that, I think it's a very timely one for today, especially because agents are going through a really tough time. And just kind of realizing that the market goes up and down. It will go back up. It may take some time, but the building blocks that you're, putting in place right now are what are going to, really propel you when the market does go back. And
well, you're exactly right. And I started being a real estate agent in 2009. So for all the agents listening out there, 2009 was a terrible time to jump in and start. There was agents flocking to get out of the business. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a time for agents to start in a business. This is a time for agents to reinvent yourself. This is a time to get your systems in place, get your head right, really understand how to build a team if that's what you want to do. This is a great time for all of that. And all agents out there that are listening should embrace this difficult time, because you're able to sharpen your skills. So when the market gets back on fire, when interest rates go down back to 5%, and I think there's a lot of pent up demand right now because people aren't moving, right? Inventory is low because nobody's moving. So when that pendulum swings back to a lower interest rate environment, I think we're going to have another feeding frenzy. I don't know when that's going to be. Obviously, I'm not an economist. Y'all heard my academic career, but I do read a little bit and understand a little bit relative to what's going on out there. And I think at a certain point, everybody on the sidelines is going to try to, because families have grown, right? People have the down payment to go buy another house. They just don't want to have a double or triple cost per month. So I think there's going to be this wild sensation. Is it going to happen in 2024? Is it going to happen in 2025? I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm ready for it and I'll be prepared for it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, just interviewing so many real estate team leaders and brokers over the years, including through the Great Recession, the best ones grew their market share during these downturns. That's when they were investing money. That's when they were really honing their skills and growing. And it's just like, I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to who did the same thing as you, started in, 2008, 2009, and are super successful today because they started at a time that forced them to really work hard and prepare and like hone their skills. So yeah.
It wasn't easy to sell houses then. So you had to do creative marketing. I remember I had a Braves baseball player that called me and said he just got traded and he was moving and he wanted me to sell his house. And I went over there and it was vacant and hadn't moved out everything all the way. And the market was terrible. And, I said, geez, what is this? It's just, it has no life in here. So I called up an art, store and said, hey, let's put some art in this house, and I want you to invite, I'm going to pay for the party. You invite all your clients that have spent over $20,000 with you, and I'll invite, my sphere, and let's have a party. Let's just showcase this house. And he put probably $1 million worth of art in the house, and it was phenomenal, even though there was no furniture, nothing. We had a DJ in there. I had Ferrari come out, and they were giving test drives to folks and kind of made this partnership together. Well, somebody came to look at the art, ended up buying the house. And I said, God, there's another way to do stuff around here, and I think that was 2009 or 2010. And it's hard. It's hard right now, right? It's hard to get listings. It's very, very competitive because, somebody does want to sell and they'll know 10 agents and everybody's going to give them a pitch. How do you win that pitch? You win that pitch from your experience and what you're going to do. And honing your skills. So if you got in the business in 2021, you were an order taker, right? Yeah. And you didn't have to do much. So it's the agents that really honed the skills back in the Great Recession and that are doing it now. They're going to be successful in the later years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the art show. So I want to talk a little bit about the luxury market kind of mindset and trends that you're seeing in that market today. So tell me what you're seeing. I know you're specific. Well, you said you're outside of Atlanta as well, but talk to me about what's happening.
Well, the market's kind of fragmented. I mean, in my market, God, it's kind of hard to sell a $1.5 to $2 million house right now because those people might be coming from a 500 or a 750 and they're interest rate locked. So the people with cash still making money and they're buying the 3s and the 4s and the 7s and the 8s. But the prices have come down a little bit because there's not as many buyers. I mean, the market's not dead the way it was in the Great Recession. There's still deals to be made. There's still people moving into our great city of Atlanta. So, I'm probably down. I think that my numbers are around, I think I've closed or have pinned in around 250 million so far this year. And what is it? It's the end of September. I'll finish the year over 300, but that's considerably down from where I was last year. Yeah. And that's okay. I'm still working as hard. I'm still busy during the day, but it's just not as easy to sell a house.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk mindset, because you said you talk a little bit about that in your book, and obviously you have a growth mindset. So what are some of the tricks and suggestions you have for agents to kind of get in that mindset when they're really struggling?
Well, first, if you're an Atlanta agent, know that there's 25,000 other agents in this city. Okay. Know that the inventory is low. So how are you going to win deals? You have to be completely obsessed. You have to have actors out there or people part of your team that are not necessarily really part of your team. Who's that? That's the guy that cuts your hair. That's the valet guys at the expensive restaurants. They all know me by name. They all, have my books and my brochures. When a Ferrari or a Mercedes or a nice car comes in, those guys put it in the passenger seat with my card in it. Right. I give those guys great tips every time I see them, couple $100, all the time. So how much business have I gotten from that? It's the bartenders, right? That hear somebody, oh, I need to find a new house. I got a friend moving into town or just got a divorce, whatever. And those guys will give them my card, and those guys are all part of my team, right? It's the accountants, the guys that are, that have a client that's selling a company. It's the wealth managers, right? And all those are relationships that I've been courting for decades. And the level of business I get just from my team members outside of my core team that I'm paying, those are the ones that really help your business. And don't take your eyes off that. Be creative with people that are outside of your sphere. And I think that's a really, really important thing to do.
That's great advice. And it makes so much sense. And I think it's something that not a lot of agents really think about. You hear, oh, wear your name tag to the grocery store, but it goes so far beyond that.
Well, it does. I mean, even when I shouldn't have been, eating expensive meals every night, I was sitting at the bar, not the table. Why? Because I was going to meet everybody on either side of me, and I still do that today. And there, if I look on my line items of money spent, I mean, I go out to dinner 5 nights a week, and I go to different places, and I sit at the bar with my wife, and you know,
Mhm.
we're constantly out there doing our thing. And by the way, it's natural, right? We don't have to think what we're doing. It just comes
Yeah.
naturally, right? And that's the mindset you have if you're an agent. Know that it's very,
Mhm.
very competitive. Know that some agents aren't going to make a sale, and know if you're going to provide for your family and do it in a good way, you've got to really, really be elite. And to be elite, right, you've got to do things differently, and sometimes you got to not follow the trends of what everybody else is doing. And
Mhm.
I've never been able to follow anybody, just because I do things so differently. And
Mhm.
luckily in this space of real estate, it's worked out really well for me.
Yeah, and my final question is really, well, I have two. One is, where do you find inspiration and motivation? Is it your family? Is it your competitiveness? Is it a podcast or someone you follow, a coach? I don't know. Just, where do you find that?
Well, if your family's not happy, you're not going to do any good business, right? So that's 100% the most important thing, is to not outwork yourself out of a family, right? And stay grounded relative to make sure that your team at home is motivated and doing the things that they need to do. Where I find success today and where I find happiness is watching agents succeed under our
Mhm.
platform. And, if they come over as a $10 million producer and the next year they're a $20 million producer, we're doing something right. And that
Mhm.
makes me feel really, really great, because it might be a single mother and she might want to have her child go to a private school. And when she came over to our company, maybe she wasn't able to do that. And, I've got some agents that started with me as $18 million producers that are now over $100 million producers. And that's changed the whole course for generations for that family, and being able to give the tools and advice and expertise that we can to watch people succeed is the reason why I'm doing it. And I'm still doing it. And also from a standpoint of selling houses.
Mhm.
I had a meeting yesterday, and I walked into the house not knowing what I was going to get into. And it was a husband and wife, and she grabbed a drink and we sat on the back porch, and the husband came out and he's got a 30-pound tumor and he's got terminal
Mm.
cancer. And they were behind on their multi-million-dollar house on their mortgage. And he can't work because he's sick, and they've got 3 kids in college. And it was not a discussion on how am I going to sell this house, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we figured out how to keep them in there for 2 more years, get the kids out of college, and him through his treatment and everything else. That's what we do as agents. Is if you don't think about the money that you're making, but you're thinking about how you're helping people,
Mhm.
that's the difference. And that's where you start to do really, really good things.
Absolutely. My last question is just, what's next for Ansley Real Estate and Team Bonneau?
Well, for Team Bonneau, we want to continue to be the gold standard. We want to, I've taken Team Bonneau to a different city down in Sea Island, St. Simons. That's been fun. That's been challenging. That's been a way for us to grow. We've started to do new construction. We just did a 44 unit brand new building from start to finish, and we just sold out that building last week. Probably a $200 million sellout there. And we're starting to do different stuff. And that's been a lot of fun. With the company, we are going to continue to grow market share. We're going to continue to make sure that agents around Atlanta know that we've got the best platform. And we're going to continue to grow, because our goal is to be the number one market share in Atlanta, and we're headed that way, and we're not gonna, and we're gonna do it the right way too. because we're very selective on who comes and joins us. But hiring the people first and then figuring out where that superstar can go in the organization is also important. Even if we don't have a spot for a new managing broker that we feel is going to be amazing, we'll grow into that person, right? So, and that's the other way that when I started in the business, every year, if I was a $50 million producer and I wanted to go to 100, January 1st, I would start thinking and acting and building my team and spending money like a $100 million producer. And guess what? If you've got a goal at the end and you're starting at the beginning with where you want to go, you're going to get there, right? And I think that's an important thing for the agents listening to know.
Well, thank you, Bonneau, so much for sharing all of your insight and wisdom. We appreciate you joining the RealTrending podcast.
Well, I've had a blast. Have a great day. And thanks to all that listens. And you can all go get the Broker in Billions books. And if you have any questions or concerns or advice, shoot me an email. And thank you so much.
Thanks.